With this series, y'all are going to miss these little videos, huh? Huh? Today's the last day of this series. We're going to wrap it up with today's Stay Positive. Before I start, though, Amy wanted me to remind everybody, and I guess it's a good time to anyway, just because if you missed any of these and they were really interesting to you or whatever, God really spoke to you, and you wanted to go back and see them again or listen or read the notes or go back and look at ones you missed, you can navigate to it on our website, graceandtruth.church. They're kind of scattered all over YouTube and Faith Life and that kind of thing. So. Yeah, this auto uploads the bulletins, which are just the slides that we have. So if you just wanted to see the verses, you can see that on Faith Life. So anyway, all right. Well, like I said, today we're going to wrap this up. For the last few weeks, we've been talking about staying positive, staying positive in this negative world. Negativity is all around us. It's everywhere you look. And there's just so much negativity everywhere. But unfortunately, and we've already talked about listing all this and everything, but unfortunately for many of us, some of the most negativity that we face comes from ourselves, right? You may really want to do something, but you're down on yourself about your abilities. The guys really want to play basketball or golf or something, and suddenly you overwhelm yourself with negativity. You're like, basketball? I'm like 1,000. I can't play basketball anymore. I'm going to embarrass myself, hurt myself, whatever. That negativity, it may fire up in your mind when you start thinking about your future. I'm not going anywhere. You can't be certain about your future. I mean, nobody can predict, especially the way things have been going lately. Maybe your spouse asks you to do a favor, and you feel inadequate or like you can't accomplish it. You don't think that you're good enough, or maybe sometimes you just feel insecure around other people. Maybe you lack confidence as a parent or as a spiritual leader. Maybe simply walking past the mirror like the goofy red blob is a shot to your confidence. So if you've ever felt this way, I truthfully, fully, completely believe that God has something special for you and me both today, because this, like I mentioned last week, is probably my biggest struggle when it comes to staying positive. So God's going to speak to us. Confidence has always been at the top of my list of struggles. In fact, while I'm up here reading off all these random insecurities, in the back of my mind, I'm going, yep, I got that one. That one too. Oh, spiritual leader? Yeah, check. I'm not good at that. Embarrass myself on the basketball court? Yeah, that's me. So if that's you too, then you've probably given yourself the talk, like I have. You can do this. You got this. It'll be easy. You've got it, man. It's going to be easy. Well, it should be easy. Don't blow it. It's supposed to be easy. It would only take one thing to go wrong, one misstep. That's the one that I'm going to do too. So, I'm going to mess this up. Maybe I shouldn't even do it. Really, I'll never make it anyway. And so you give up. If it's your diet, and you give up, you go all in on the failure, and you've got like 3 boxes of pizza and 2 buckets of ice cream at home or whatever. Because you're not going to be able to do it anyway, right? So why not go all in and enjoy it? Yeah. You don't think that you're going to be a good spiritual leader, so you cancel the Bible study, or you don't show up, or you call in sick. You don't think you can be a great parent, so you think, well, the kids will learn this on their own. They'll figure it out. When it comes to being insecure around others, oftentimes people even swing the other direction with it to compensate for their self-perceived lack of confidence. And what they'll do is act like the most confident person in the room. And in truth, it's oftentimes that people who are the most cocky are oftentimes the ones that are the most insecure, really. So in fact, just for fun, I've got a short list here of different types of insecure people. And they are the people pleasers, the fishers, and the one-uppers. And I think the internet just calls it cringe. But at one point or another, I've been all 3 of these. Maybe at some point even all 3 at once. But So to talk about them, what do the people pleasers do? This insecurity. They say, "Hey, man, that was really amazing. You're so great at that. I think you're so amazing. Is there anything I can do? Do you need anything? Is there anything I can do for you? I mean, I'll do anything. If you need some money, I got some money. Here, have it all." Trying to please somebody. Does anybody in here know a people pleaser? Raise your hand if you know a people pleaser. You've ever, yeah, don't you, see, some of you are raising your hand just to please me, and that's great. I'm pleased. So, so then there are the fishers. Fishers, they're fishing for compliments. They'll throw things out to get pats on the back or whatever. These are the people that'll take a picture of themselves and post it on Facebook and say, "Oh, I just feel so blah today." But it's like a posed picture and it's all edited and nice looking. And they're just hoping somebody will say, "Oh, no way, you're beautiful. Look at that picture." Now, I don't take pictures of myself, but I probably, fail at this one more than I'd like to admit. And in fact, honestly, after church, a lot of times I'll ask Amy or even Mom, both of them. I'll just be like, "Was that okay today? Did it speak to you? And was there something good that did something stand out? Was it entertaining? What part? Which one was it?" People or the fishers. So, and then there are the one-uppers. Does anybody know one of these? How about two? So. That's the person that says, you got one person say, "Oh, my son got an A in math. We're proud of him." And then, "Oh, that's congratulations. That's really great. My kid's got straight A's." If you catch a fish this big, they've caught one that much bigger. "Man, I had the flu last month, and it really took me out." "Oh, yeah, that's nothing. I got sick a while back, and I was sick for like 3 months. It almost killed me, and the doctors couldn't figure out what it was. And come to find out, it was a new disease, and they're naming it after me." So one-uppers. So even though I've struggled with all of these insecurities at some point, the biggest and the most tragic part of insecurity is when they keep you from following your dreams. By nature, I'm that type of person that if I don't think I can do really good at something, or especially even win at something, then oftentimes I just won't even do it, right? Look for excuses not to do it. I'll never forget when I was a kid, we used to race motorcycles, and I'll never forget before one of the races, all night long the night before, it had rained. It was very muddy. I think it was Stillwater. And so I'm sitting on the back of the trailer before this race, and I'm just like curled over, holding my stomach because I was so nervous. I felt like I was gonna yak, And I really did. If all it would have taken was somebody to say, "Yeah, you don't have to," and I'm like, "Okay," and I'd have been loaded up, But I'll never forget, my dad. He would always push me to do things that I didn't think I could do, because he believed in me or whatever. And so if it wasn't for him, there was a lot of stuff I probably wouldn't have done without his pushing. Well, that morning, I'll never forget what he told me. It was very simple, but to me, it just, evidently he knew me better than I knew myself, What he said was, "Everybody is going to struggle today just as much as you, but you can handle it." And I know that's very simple, but that's all it took for me. And I mean, I was still nervous, but it really made a big deal. I didn't quit that day. But there have been plenty of other times when I have. So how many people quit because of their insecurity? I can think of a whole bunch that I've done. Maybe you don't go to the job interview at all because you just don't feel adequate, or qualified. You never go back to school if you're wanting to go back and get a degree in whatever because you don't feel smart enough. Or you never lead a Bible study or prayer group because you don't feel good enough or spiritual enough. And oftentimes you don't even try because you don't have the confidence. So let's talk about confidence today. If you're taking notes, I want to start with an important principle, and this is going to be our driving thought. So we need to learn how to be confident, but what we don't need is more self-confidence. So this is our driving thought. We don't need more self-confidence. We should cultivate God confidence. So there's a big, big difference between self-confidence and God confidence. We don't need to be confident in ourselves. We should cultivate God confidence. There's a great story about confidence in chapters 3 and 4 in the book of Exodus. When God told Moses to go to Pharaoh and free the Israelites, Moses was focused on his insecurities. He's so focused on them that he pretty much ignored God's encouragement. And I would encourage you to read it, but just to kind of summarize, essentially, Moses is thinking, I don't have the self-confidence I need to do this, but God is saying, no, actually, what you need is more God confidence. So it starts out, Moses, the first thing that he said to God when God told him to go, he said, who am I to do this job? I can't do that. Remembering that Moses grew up with, the royalty in Egypt. Who am I? And then God's like, it's okay. I'll be with you. I'm going to take care of it. And then he's like, yeah, but what if they ask who sent me? He got more excuses. Well, then tell him I did. Anyway, here's the plan, Moses, and he draws it all out on this dry erase rock, and then he lays out all these detailed plans for Moses. And then Moses, clearly not listening, brings up the last point again. He says, okay, but what if they still don't believe that you're the one that sent me? And so God gives him 3 signs to prove this is going to show him that I sent you. And Moses is like, God, pardon me, Yahweh. I'm really not good with words. I only know small ones. I don't know any big ones, and those small ones, I really don't know a whole lot of those. And I'm a little slow. I'm not quick. I don't have like a big library of good jokes. And God's like, listen, Moses, I'm gonna help you. You don't have to worry about it. I know plenty of big words. I created all these mouths that are making up these big words. I got this, excuse me, God, sir, pardon, send someone else. Imagine at this point in this interchange, God is probably, if he's ever been angry enough to talk through his teeth, this would have been a moment where he would have, well, how's about your brother Aaron? Is he good enough? I've already sent him and found him much more agreeable. In fact, he's going to meet you and you're going to go together, okay? Oftentimes I find myself just like that, just trying to come up with all these reasons why I can't do something. The reason is because Moses never would have had enough self-confidence. He needed God confidence. When speaking to the Corinthians, Paul, he referenced Moses in the Exodus, and he talked about how they traveled with God and how God took care of them and gave them everything they needed. And some of them, though, got a little bit too self-confident, and everything was going so well for them, what's there to worry about? Some of them even tested God and died for it, snake bites and that kind of thing. And then Paul said this in 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 12. He said, and I'm reading from the Message version, he said, forget about self-confidence. It's useless. Cultivate God confidence. So we need to forget about self-confidence because in truth it's useless. Instead, we're going to ask God to develop something deep within us, a faith in Him, a confidence in Him. So why not focus on self-confidence? If you're taking notes, I'll give you 3. I'm sure we could all come up with a long list, but I'll give you 3. My heart is deceitful, my flesh is weak, my behavior is inconsistent. Scripture says that my heart is deceitful above all things. We have this unbelievable ability to trick ourselves, to talk ourselves, to deceive ourselves. Why be confident in myself if I'm just going to end up tricking myself about it, right? My flesh is weak. Spiritually, I can be on fire one day and then struggling with desire the next. Paul said, I put no confidence in the flesh. And you could be the most obedient person, the most obedient law-abiding citizen, following all the strictest Jewish laws. But in Paul's words, that's worthless compared to Jesus. Why would I put confidence in my own flesh when Christ has done so much more? My heart is deceitful, my flesh is weak, and my behavior is inconsistent. I can be on fire for one day, for God one day, like I said earlier, and then, the next I can be hiding in the dark places, trying to hide from God. Passionate for God for 3, 4, 5, 6 days, and then on day 7, I see a squirrel and completely lose all focus. And so, all this to say, it's not bad to have self-confidence. It's important to feel good about yourself and to an extent, or to acknowledge the gifts that God has given you and be able to serve in that way and believe, I can do this. But if you really want to go all in with God and live a life that completely glorifies Him, you'll never ever do it completely by putting confidence in yourself alone. You'll only do it by cultivating a God confidence. So last week we talked a little bit about David and how he was on fire for God when he was younger, but before he became king. And then once he became king, he spent quite a bit of time, doing the opposite, right? But when he was younger, he spent a lot of his time running. And during this time, he still managed to praise God. And like we talked about last week, he was enthusiastic about it. It was a God-born excitement. So how could he do that? Why not just give up? Why deal with all that? Because instead of being self-confident, David found his confidence in God. While he was running for his life, he said this in Psalm 57. He said, "My heart is confident in you, God. My heart is confident. No wonder I can sing your praise." So for the rest of our time this morning, what I want to do is focus on 3 important truths that can help us to cultivate this God confidence. So we're going to look at some more verses that have the word confident in them, and then, or some variation of confidence, and we're going to let them work to build this God confidence in us. Confidence not in ourselves, but in God. So if you're taking notes, the first truth is this: my God is always for me. My God is always for me. Even when it doesn't seem like it. How many times have you heard, well, God, He's just out to get me. God's out to get me. Think about that. What a strange thought, really. I mean, if you've ever felt that way, at some point did you stop and just really process that for a minute or two? For one thing, if God was out to get you, you'd be got. With God, there is no try. There is only do or do not. And I really think Yoda stole that kind of concept from God. There's no try, only do or do not. Every human, or even human parents, care enough about their kids to punish them if they're doing something bad or that's going to hurt them, right? I saw a video the other day of these kids that were just swinging. And there was this little boy that was just kind of milling around, and at one point, the boy just starts walking, and he walks right through the path of this girl that is swinging, and she's swinging big. She's trying to get as high as she can, and the whole time, the parents are off screen trying to stop him, yelling, "Ah!" Trying to get his attention and get him to stop, and the girl just whoosh whisks right by him, just barely misses him. Somehow, even though it was close, he didn't get hit. But the parents kept yelling, "Ah!" And the rest of the kids are kind of looking around like, "What did I do? What did I?" All but the girl swinging. She's having a good time. And she's whoosh swinging, and the boy, a little confused probably too, turns and walks back across the path again, but this time he wasn't so lucky and just gets taken out. God doesn't want to see us get taken out by someone swinging because we're not paying attention, right? So he might even send something your way to get your attention. So in other words, He isn't out to get you so much as He's out to get your attention, because He's always for you. Paul said it this way in Romans. He said, "If God is for us, who could ever be against us? If my infinitely powerful God is for me, who could ever get between Him and me?" My God that's confidence, right? My God is always for me, and nothing is going to stop Him or take Him away. When I think of God in terms of a parent, I often think of my own parents, and I'm very, very blessed to have parents who are always for me. And earlier I mentioned my dad and how he always was an encouragement, and at that race especially. But when we don't feel like we can do something, like in that story, as well as we should or good enough or whatever, it can carry a lot of weight. It can make me sit on the back of a trailer hunched over, sick at my stomach. And my dad always had more confidence in me than in my abilities than I did. And I never wanted to let him down. So this is kind of the flip side of that. I didn't want to crash. I didn't want to break down. I didn't want to get comfortable during a race. I was out there to win. I was gonna win, and I was gonna do the best I could. Some of us tend to do the same thing with God. We don't want to strike out. We don't want to fail. We don't want to be one of those failures we don't want to imitate a failure that we read in Scripture of so and so that had all these high hopes and aspirations and failed big. We don't want to do that. We don't want to fail. And soon, what happens is we take our doubts. We take our doubting and stop doubting ourselves, and we become our own worst critic. We start thinking that the reason that we need to go to church is because I've got these stains I need to get off for God. I got to do the best I can. I'm not going to fail. Or we avoid church altogether because we think everybody's going to be looking at me and wondering why I'm smoking as I run in this door. And we think that we're supposed to make God happy. We're supposed to earn it. We're supposed to achieve it. And we forget that my God is always for me. I love this quote from Craig Groeschel. He said, "We don't live for God's approval. We live from God's approval." So do you find yourself living for the approval of God? Or are you living full of God confidence? Because the God of the universe is always for you. From Hebrews says, "So do not throw away this confident trust in the Lord. Remember the great reward it brings you." So why does it bring you great reward? Because God is for you. He's always for you. The second truth that will help cultivate God confidence is that my God always helps me. He's always there for me. I'm sure everybody has a story like this one, and I know Uncle Michael has a even better story, but but anyway, when my brother and I were younger, we were typically the errand boys. Yeah. I remember my dad sitting watching TV with the blinds right behind him, but he would have us call us from the other side of the room to come shut the blinds if the shining on the TV. Not a bad thing, just a memory. But my dad worked out of the and after the sun would go down, sometimes you'd light on still down there because it forgot to get turned off or whatever. And that was our cue. It was like our, here we go, we in now. So it's up to us brave boys to go down there and turn out that light in the middle of the night. So unfortunately for me though, for the most part, especially I don't remember if Rusty was really afraid of the dark or not, but it didn't really matter because he would get over it. He'd find a way to get over it so that he could mess with me, And I don't even remember if we would be often together, but it didn't matter because, like I said, he was always looking for a reason to mess with me. So as soon as we turned the lights off or whatever, the first one back to the house, not because we were trying to win, but because I was terrified, right? So, we had to get away from whatever these things that were living in the dark, because they're going to take advantage of this opportunity. Thankfully, it's not that way with God, right? God doesn't turn off the flashlight just to hear you scream. In fact, God says this. He says, "I will never fail you. I will never abandon you." So we can say with confidence, the Lord is my helper. He's my helper, so I'm not going to fear. No matter what it is that you're going through, no matter what you're facing, God will never leave you, never abandon you. I can't even begin to count how many times my God has been there for me in the worst of times and in the best times. He's your helper when you're trying to save your marriage. He's your difficult conversation. He's your helper when you're on a mission to get out of debt or whatever. He's a helper when you feel led to start a ministry or when you prayer group or whatever. As with Moses, he's your helper when you're supposed to say something but you can't remember how to speak. He gives you the words to say. He gives you the move forward. He gives you the peace to carry on. Psalm 46 says this: God is our refuge and strength, an ever-present help in trouble. And looking back at those times whenever I felt in trouble, for me, I can always see where, looking back, every time I've been in trouble, where God was ever present. He was always there. My God always helps me. He's always for me. And third, if you're taking notes, my God is still working in me. So I'm a work in progress, right? Some of you already repeat this every day. And the truth of it is, it's not an excuse. It is the truth. God is still working in you. Maybe you did the wrong thing and it haunts you, or you're full of doubts, or whatever. And that tripped you stuck. The Christian thing has become part of your task list, and now you've got to do what you do to mark off the check boxes. And the thing of it is, if you're waiting until this isn't a thing anymore, and if you're waiting until you do feel good enough, it's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. He's always going to. Only one who was a good spiritual leader, and his name was Jesus. I prepare a message to share on Sundays. In the back of my mind, I'm thinking, boy, I hope they don't figure out I'm the one that needs to hear this. I want you to know that, I do appreciate everybody's encouragement, but to be honest, there's not a single Sunday that I feel good enough to stand up here and talk. In fact, most of the time, I don't even describe what I do as preaching because it puts a weight on me. And I never feel worthy of Amy. She loves me. She's a great person, and I never feel like I deserve her. I never feel as good as she be treated. I always feel like I'm failing in some way. And I think that's probably part of the reason why I like Moses' story that I mentioned earlier, because I think I get where it's coming from. I by no means think I'm anything like Moses or somebody that should be looked up to in that way, but my first reaction is always similar to his reaction to God in that story. I can't do that. Why me? Don't ask me to do that. Find somebody else. and next week, Mike and I go down to the kids' room, or the whatever room that is, and we pray before service starts. And part of my